Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar today for Simplifying GXP Compliance from Acquisition to Final Result with the Attune Cytometric software and FCS Express. We're going to be getting started in just another 4 or 5 minutes at the top of the hour. For folks who have just joined the webinar or have been waiting in the waiting room, thanks for being here. Please take a moment to locate the questions and answers box in the GoToMeeting panel. If the panel has minimized itself, there'll be a little orange button with an arrow in it that you can use to expand the panel. And if you could just type in a quick hello in the chat, or in the questions and answers section, that will let us know that you can hear the webinar, that our screens are coming through, and that logistically things are going okay. Great, and I see a few hellos coming through. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. And again, we're just going to wait another 3 or 4 minutes to the top of the hour, and we'll be getting started in just a few moments. Hey, everybody. I see we have a lot of people joining the webinar here as we get towards the top of the hour. So for those of you who are just joining us, thanks for popping in the webinar today. We'll be getting started in another 2 or 3 minutes at the top of the hour. For those of you who have just joined the webinar, make sure you locate the questions and answers box in the GoToMeeting panel. If it's minimized itself, there'll be a little orange button with a white arrow in it. You can click on that to expand the area. And that's where you'll be able to ask any questions that you have as we proceed during the webinar today for either the Thermo Fisher Scientific team or for the Novo Software FCS Express team. We'll be happy to take as many questions as we can as we go through the webinar. We'll have a questions and answer section towards the end of the webinar. And if there's any questions we can't get to, don't worry, we will have all of those logged. We'll make sure we get back to you shortly after the webinar with some follow-up answers for you. So again, we're just going to wait another minute or two before we get going on the webinar till the top of the hour. I see we still have a lot of people joining us here. So just hang tight for another moment or two, and we'll get going shortly. Hello, everybody. Again, thank you for joining the webinar. We're at the top of the hour here. I see we still have a number of people joining in here at the last moment. So we are going to give everybody just another moment or two to log in the webinar, get settled before we start our presentation today. For the folks who have just joined in the webinar, make sure to take a moment to locate the questions and answers box. So if you have questions for either the Thermo Fisher Scientific or Novo Software team during the webinar, we have a team of experts here ready to take questions and answer everything that you might have during the webinar. So again, please hang tight just for another moment or two, and we'll be getting started shortly. Hey everybody, again, welcome to the webinar. Welcome today. We're about a minute or two after the top of the hour. We're going to allow our last few guests to join in here before we get started. I do see we had a number of people come in right at the top of the hour here. So for those of you who have just recently joined us, make sure to find that questions and answers box in the GoToMeeting panel to ask any questions that you have during the webinar. So today's webinar will be recorded, will be available after the webinar. We'll be reaching out to all of our attendees and all of the registrants for the webinar to capture that recording after the fact. And we're going to start that recording now and get going on the webinar in just a moment. Hello everybody, welcome to the webinar today for simplifying GXP compliance from acquisition to final result with the Attune Cytometric software and FCS Express. My name is Sean Burke. I'm the Director of Commercial Operations at Novo Software, and I'm joined by my colleague here, Bethan Jones, the Senior Product Owner from the Thermo Fisher Scientific side. So we're really excited to be presenting this webinar today. And as a little bit of a background and an overview of what we'll be covering on the webinar today, Thermo Fisher Scientific and Novo Software have worked together to provide FCS Express with every new Attune instrument to really help researchers seamlessly move from acquisition to final results. And while FCS Express licenses provided with the instrument do not include functionality and features to support 21 Part 11 compliance, they can be added on at additional costs at any time at your convenience. Today's webinar is going to focus primarily first on GXP compliant ready software at acquisition using the Attune Cytometric software. We're going to cover the new and unique .tmo file export that allows files to move from the Attune Cytometric software to FCS Express in a secure manner. We're going to be speaking about the intersection of advanced analysis and reporting tools in FCS Express that can be brought into a fully integrated and compliant environment with security and logging, or what we call audit trail add-ons. And in the first half of the webinar, Bethan's going to cover the compliant ready technology of the Attune Cytometric software, and then we're going to switch gears a little bit, and in the second half of the webinar, we're going to cover the compliant ready technology of FCS Express 7 and how we quickly move that data, whether it be FCS files or TMO files, from acquisition to publication ready results for GXP laboratories. So with that, I'd like to introduce Bethan Jones from Thermo. Hi, Bethan. How are you today? We'll make you the presenter.
Thank you, Sean.
Great. We have your screen coming through, and we'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. It is, let me just make sure we move forward here. It is a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about 21 CFR Part 11 solutions for flow cytometry. So Thermo Fisher has been offering flow cytometers since the advent of the original Attune in 2010. Using innovative acoustic focusing technology, the Attune family of flow cytometers are mid-range cell analyzers that are the fastest on the market with a maximum flow rate of 1 ml per minute. As we continue to innovate and provide novel solutions to our customers, in 2021, we launched the CytPix, which is a flow cytometer coupled with a camera that enables imaging-assisted flow cytometry and also automatic image analysis within our cytometric software. So both the NXT and CytPix are available with up to 14 detectors and 4 lasers, and they can come with a violet laser with a 4 or 6 channel configuration. Due to the syringe-driven fluidic systems, these instruments are actually exceptionally difficult to clog, and so they can be used on a wide variety of samples that are somewhat traditionally challenging to run on peristaltic-driven systems, such as tumor samples and tissue digests. The CytPix is an expansion of our popular Attune NXT platform. By adding a camera to an NXT, which is in essence what the CytPix is, we're now able to correlate FCS file events with images to ground truth data and understand just exactly what the dots actually are on plots. Our new automated image analysis software for the CytPix automates data extraction from images, providing label-free quantitative parameters for profiling size measurements, population-level statistics, population identification, and particle enumeration. These image parameters can then be plotted against conventional flow parameters, enabling novel data analysis pathways, and this opens the user to a whole new realm of possibilities in data exploration. I would also like to point out that automation options do exist for these systems. Our CytKix Max autosampler is a modular automation option that is compatible with many different plate formats, including 96 well, 384 well, and up to 2 mil deep well plates. An intelligent probe design minimizes clogging and carryover and helps prevent damage to the instrument. It's also worth pointing out that automation on the Attune instruments is scalable with configurations that enable robotic plate taxiing, extended fluidics, temperature-stable plate storage, and also software that provides the ability to leverage both scheduling and integration to get the most from your automation solution. So today I'm going to be discussing our 21 CFR Part 11 compliance software that is applicable for both the NXT and CytPix platforms, with auditing rolling out to our automated image analysis update in July of this year, 2023. So first I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of the software and talk about what 21 CFR Part 11 compliance is, showcasing how this is managed and how auditing security and e-signature options can be configured by an administrator. Then I'm going to talk about how Attune data can be imported into FCS Express to enable continued chain of custody for auditing and 21 Part 11 compliance for enhanced data analysis. So before I discuss 21 CFR Part 11 more, I would like to quickly introduce you to our Attune Cytometric software, which is designed to provide powerful data acquisition using Attune instruments and data analysis using an intuitive, user-friendly interface. Experiments can be easily set up, customized, and safe for future use and work. Compensation is automated and can be set up using a guide. The software is essentially designed to maximize efficiency in performing data analysis, with fast refresh rates for large data sets, enabling the user to immediately visualize changes on data plots as you make adjustments during acquisitions. We have specifically designed the software with unique tools to simplify experimental setup. For example, we include guidance for matching the right reagent to an optimized channel on the instrument by selecting your reagent of choice from a drop-down menu of pre-populated or customized reagents, which is then applied to plot labels. We also provide real-time metrics, so you know exactly how long your runs will take, which is particularly important when you're multitasking in a lab and have a lot of assays going on in parallel. You can just see where your plate or where your sample is at. A panel showing acquisition controls enables easy viewing of sample progress, and the software provides a multitude of plot and gating options for analysis, including automated gating, an intuitive interface for data analysis, and even an option to export data to the Thermo Fisher cloud. So 21 CFR Part 11 compliance, what exactly is it? Well, it sounds a bit of a mouthful of an acronym. It is essentially just Title 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations that establishes the United States Food and Drug Administration regulations on electronic records and electronic signatures. Part 11 itself defines the criteria under which electronic records and signatures are considered trustworthy, reliable, and equivalent to paper records. So why should you as a user go down this route? Well, implementing 21 CFR Part 11 actually enables more paperless environments, faster information exchange, and a much smaller data storage footprint by moving records solely to electronic versions. 21 CFR Part 11 specifies the system elements, controls, and procedures that are necessary to ensure the reliability of electronically stored records. It is important to note that Part 11 is composed of both procedural and technical requirements. Procedural requirements are the standard operating procedures instituted by the end user, and technical requirements are the technical requirements of the software used. I would just like to point out that use of the Attune Cytometric 21 CFR Part 11 compliance software, bit of a mouthful there, does not automatically guarantee compliance. The software enables compliance for the flow cytometry data collection and analysis steps within the workflow. However, compliance is the consequence of the end user's work process and systems used. And this is a really important disclaimer that I think is important to highlight. In essence, the user needs to demonstrate that they're compliant by essentially showing in their SOP that they've written procedures and that training of their personnel actually fit within the milieu of 21 CFR Part 11 compliance. However, what we have implemented digitally enables that we're able to control access, auditing of instrument settings, acquisition settings, workspace elements, and analysis, pretty much everything you need to do in the context of an experiment. I would like to point out that Thermo Fisher does also offer a service to enable a customer to determine if they are compliant. So please do reach out to us if you're interested further in this offering. So I'm going to be talking about the SAE module, which just stands for Security, Audit, and Electronic Signature. And this is a client-driven software configuration that we use that enables us the software to meet specific requirements for security, audit, and e-signatures for 21 Part 11 compliance. So the SAE module that is basically at the core of everything that we do in our compliance here, basically includes three components. Firstly, there's the SAE Administrator Console, and this is a tool that is used by an SAE administrator to configure an SAE module. There is an SAE server, and this is a service that runs in the background and stores SAE settings, user accounts, audit records, and e-signature records. And by default, this is installed on the same computer as the SAE Administrator Console. There are also SAE screens. These are basically screens that are displayed, sign-in, audit, and e-signature in the application that require user input. So this SAE module can actually be configured to provide the following functionality. So firstly, security. So i.e. we can control what users have access to an application, so to a particular function within the software. It also can be configured to do auditing. So that is provide options around auditable application objects, and then also electronic signatures, i.e. determine if users need to fulfill specific signature requirements before doing specific functions, and if so, it enables the configuration of those said e-signatures. So the SAE console and module is included with the 21 CFR Part 11 version of the Attune Cytometric software and has a specific dongle. So non-21 CFR Part 11 versions of the software have a gray dongle, whereas if you go ahead and with the 21 Part 11 compliance software, it is blue. But I would like to note that even if you go ahead with the 21 CFR 11 dongle, you can still use the Attune with or without this sort of 21 CFR Part 11 version of the software with this dongle. You're not completely tied into that as always having to use it in a compliant manner. So the SAE console, this is at the heart of basically administrating all of this compliance within our software. It is used to configure the SAE module, including user credential management, who users are and what their roles are, auditing and e-signature features, and each is in easy to access tabs that map to permissions directly in the Attune software. Changes made on the SAE Administrator Console are synced with the Attune Cytometric software every 10 seconds. And if the SAE Administrator Console is offline, the software uses a cache to manage a local copy of the Administrator Console server settings and a cache of all audit and e-signature records that are created while the server is offline. One aspect to note is that our console is also used by products such as the Invitrogen Qubit and IBRAT instruments, thus enabling a solution for compliance across complementary instruments in our portfolio. Once you're in the Attune software, which I'll show you shortly, to open the SAE Administrator Console, simply click View SAE Console on the SAE ribbon tab. And dependent on your assigned role, a user is also given a variety of options in the software pertaining to e-signatures. A user is able to request signatures, view those that are pending, sign records, and also view records that are signed. So as Sean mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, a new feature that we have added in version 5.2 software and onwards is the ability to simply export FCS data to enable further analysis in FCS Express. So by a simple right click, files are securely exported to a .tmo format file that is encrypted and can only be opened by FCS Express. And so this enables a chain of auditing custody from acquisition through to further analysis using the FCS Express software. And Sean will be showing you more about that shortly. So now I'm going to very briefly show you what 21 CFR Part 11 compliant features look like in the Attune software and introduce you to our SAE console. So here we have the login screen for our software, which I am just going to get into now. And upon sign in, what you'll see when you open the software, this is software that can be used for analysis off your computer or that's attached to your flow cytometer, but also is the crux. The instrument basically is controlled by this software as well. So you'll see that there are four big buttons here when you open the software for performance testing, and you can create new experiments, import templates, and import experiments. And here on the right, you'll see we have an experiment explorer bar. Just going to double click on a sample of some data that I generated to show you what the actual software looks like. Okay, so here we have our software, and as you can see, this is a piece of software where you can actually control instrument acquisition all the way through from collection panel, and then all the way using these tabs here, we can go through the workspaces and we can actually do all sorts of analysis using gates and different plots. Here I have a variety of different immune cells, different PBMCs that I've gated and acquired using the software from an instrument all the way through to analysis here on the software. But the thing that I really want to point out today is this additional tab here, which is SAE. And this is what I showed you earlier. This is the SAE console here that you can access, and also the signing signatures. To access the SAE console, you just simply click this button here, and you are prompted with a screen that shows you how you can access. Oops, sorry about that. So here we have our console. So first thing you'll notice when you actually access this is that you'll see that it's telling me that the user did not enter the correct password. Also, I used it earlier and it actually timed out. So I'm just going to acknowledge those and move on. So opening the console here as an administrator, you can see the different users that are present. And this is where you create a new user. And so if I click on create here, you can create a user here, and you can see that there are actually 5 predefined roles. And these map back to the Attune software. You can force a user to set a password at sign-in, and then also you can change the status of the account from inactive to suspended, and then put it back to active as well. Navigating here to roles, what you'll see is, as stated before, there are 5 predefined roles, but sky's really is the limit. Looking here at the permutation space, if you create a new role, you can see that a user is able to create a lot of different roles based on a lot of different a la carte options here. And it is very granular with all the roles that have been allowed within the software. So to give you an idea, you can create a role that specifically enables a user to have access to compensation or not be able to do compensation at all. Same for acquisition control. A user actually you can control whether they're even able to modify collect options or run and record samples. Further performance test options here. Is a user able to run a performance test and reset a baseline? And you may have other concerns as well about whether a user is able to do things in the analysis with gates. So we even enable the auditing of whether they can change the gate color and coordinates or the names of these gates. So really, sky's the limit here and what roles we can create for the user. Moving to the system here, you'll also see that you're able to administer different usernames and settings, so lengths of these usernames, and different aspects of password policy. One thing I would like to point out is there is the ability to set options on whether the account is actually locked out and options around that, depending on whether, for example, a user has timed out or whether they have actually not entered the right password. And it is important to note that we also allow files from non-ASAE systems to be used in the software if you so wish. If you look at the audit tab here, we also enable a load of different aspects here of what you can audit. So there are different things that will require different action records. And so if you basically select optional required, it will require the user to enter an audit reason dialog every time a change results in an audit. Moving on to the e-signature tab, again, there are options here to configure different aspects of e-signatures for different users. And I would like to show you here the audit history as well. We have different aspects of the action records that are available. So you can see action records here regarding access to the software are always audited. But then there are different aspects here, such as system configuration, which here show your security audit and e-signature records. And these really do pertain to different application object records. So you can see here different things that I've done here. I've moved some gates around, I've changed some heat map settings, I've done various things with results. And ultimately you can click a report and you should be able to get a report that is PDF and that is suitable for your record keeping. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Sean, who will tell you about some more aspects of 21 CFR Part 11 compliance in FCS Express.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Bethan. That was excellent, and I'm learning a little bit more about the Attune Cytometric software as we go here as well, so this is really great for me. Let me see if I can show my screen here. We'll switch gears a little bit and talk about FCS Express. So the place to start is why Novo Software and FCS Express. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Novo Software FCS Express, we've been in business for over 20 years developing flow cytometry data analysis solutions. And we have global support and application teams with unrivaled support for your analysis needs. And our customer base ranges from all fields of research, from academic, biopharma, clinical, CROs. They all are trusting FCS Express as their analysis tool of choice. Now, when we look in the software today, what you're going to see is that FCS Express is a fully integrated analysis, statistics, graphing, and reporting tool for getting those results. Now, this is really important as we discuss more about the software. Because we offer all of these tools within FCS Express, it really negates the need to use additional pieces of software like PowerPoint and Excel and other sorts of environments that you may have to validate. Now, the other thing we offer is full support for the Attune instruments and this new .tmo file type that ensures researchers a seamless transition from compliant-ready acquisition environments to compliant-ready final results. So we're going to come in and talk about the TMO file export, but essentially it's an encrypted file format that's going to ensure when your data moves from the Attune instrument within its kind of 21 part 11 compliant bubble that you have set up into FCS Express, that nothing about that file has been touched or changed, right? So we know that FCS files are kind of the standard export, and of course, the Attune Cytometric software can still produce those FCS files, and FCS Express can still read them. But TMO files provide this kind of extra layer of security to help you meet your compliance needs. The other kind of thing about FCS Express is, you heard a little bit of a conversation about the CytPix instrument earlier in the presentation. FCS Express will also support the image cytometry.acs file formats that will be available coming from that instrument soon, which means that you can bring that image cytometry data into a Part 11 compliant ready environment within FCS Express. And kind of very importantly, if you've never used FCS Express, it doesn't really matter. Kind of shamelessly by design, we have this Microsoft Office inspired interface, which makes learning the software very easy. While we use integrated spreadsheets and we produce direct high resolution exports to really prevent you from having to use multiple software tools to achieve a final publication ready result. And again, that's very important in a compliant environment because every software tool that you use, more often than not, you're having to move that into some sort of validation for your GXP environment. Now, the big difference between FCS Express and other software tools that you might have available is when we work with other tools, we found that other flow cytometry software is basically getting you to basic plots and statistics, and then you're having to copy and paste into tools like Excel and Prism and Photoshop and PowerPoint, maybe even plug into R and other programs before you get a final result. And again, each of these kind of touch points with other softwares can be very challenging in a compliant environment. FCS Express, again, is integrated for analysis, statistics, graphing, and reporting. So you can take that data from the Attune instrument, you can process it any way that you want, you can batch process, get all the results that you need in one place. Now, of course, there's a lot of key features for Attune customers, which hopefully you're a Attune customer, but if you're not, maybe you'll be becoming one after the webinar today. One with FCS Express is these integrated spreadsheets and graphing, which you're going to see more about in just a little bit. That means that you can use these spreadsheets in the software rather than having to copy and paste out to other tools like Excel to get some sort of final or intermediary result. We have the presentation and publication ready graphics. So, if your reports need to be very high quality, FCS Express is going to support that, whether it goes out to PowerPoint or PDF or a single image type format, up to 700 DPI resolution, which is typically way more than enough for most people. We're going to see the Microsoft Office-like interface when we get into the software, and also keep in mind that, as data is growing, as the number of parameters is growing, we have integrated dimensionality reduction tools in FCS Express that really negate the need to have to plug into R, Python, other packages like that, though we do support it in FCS Express if needed. So, where does quality for regulated lab environments come into play with FCS Express? Well, FCS Express can give customers a secure environment where they exercise control over the lifetime of the analysis. And we do this by adding on functionality to the software to help your lab meet CFR Part 11 compliance specifications. And again, as Bethan mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, we can't offer, say, a CFR Part 11 compliant ready solution out of the box, because it's up to you as a lab to implement what specifications of Part 11 that you need. However, if you're using the security add-on for FCS Express and the logging or audit trail add-on for FCS Express, you can rest assured that you have the ability to meet every part of the compliance that you might need. Now, we also have that available for RUO versions of FCS Express, for our IVD version of FCS Express, and it's also available for our flow and image cytometry version. So if you do find yourself moving towards using the CytPix and you want compliance with that sort of data, FCS Express is ready to help you with that. The other important thing is that it's not just new licenses, right? If you have that Attune license that came with your instrument, you can contact our team at Novo Software through support@denovosoftware.com, and we can help you move that into a license that has security or logging add-ons enabled, and all of the work that you've done previously in FCS Express can be moved forward into that sort of environment as you need. So how do we help you meet that compliance? Very much at a high level, right? We have secure logging into the system. We have control over every action in FCS Express, both for individual users and for specific analysis and layouts, which we'll see. There's data validations, and by using the .tmo file format, you kind of get the ultimate in data validations for that. History, audit trails, security policies, electronic signing, which we'll take a look at the electronic signatures today, as well as reasons for change, or what we call system level audits. So kind of as you saw with the SAE system from Attune, as you make a change, those things get recorded and audited in FCS Express when you're working with us as well. So let's shift gears here a little bit and jump into FCS Express and out of PowerPoint. And I know sometimes this can be deceiving, because as we move between FCS Express and PowerPoint, what you typically find is that FCS Express looks very, very much like Microsoft Office and Microsoft PowerPoint, in that when we're in FCS Express here, you can see that we can insert shapes and text boxes and pictures, but also when it comes to working with our data, we simply grab an object, we draw an object on the page, and then you can move between your parameters of interest. And essentially that's how we've created this analysis here for our data from the Attune software. So again, we're not going to go through a lot of the specifics today about how to build this up, but what you're going to see is that the data files that we're using from today's experiment that are in the data list are of this .tmo file type. And again, these were produced by the Attune software in this .tmo file format. And to load these into FCS Express, it's really quite simple, right? It works just like any other data file. I'm going to remove a few different data files in the data list, and if I want to populate these into the software, I can simply drag and drop them in there, and then I can move between them just like they're any kind of standard FCS file. But again, with the TMO files, you can be rest assured that nothing has happened to these data files. FCS files are a little bit less secure than, say, TMO files, and you're working with that very quickly and easily here. Now, when we're within FCS Express, as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the really nice things is that we have integrated spreadsheets. We have integrated charts. We can put in text boxes. We can put in report items. We can even do absolute counts. We know that the Attune instrument is very uniquely suited for doing absolute counts, and we can read that here from the Attune instrument. And again, when you move a gate in the software, you can see things like the spreadsheets, the charts, everything that we're working with in the software is updating in real time. So you get the results and the information that you need very quickly and easily. And if you need to populate these spreadsheets, well, usually it's just a drag and drop. If I want to put that 75% gated into there, I can drag it into the spreadsheet, and you can see how quickly and easily these things update as we work through here. Now, when it comes to compliance with FCS Express, we had mentioned in the beginning, there's security, there's logging, there's all of this type of functionality. Now, what does that kind of mean in practice? Well, in this case, you can see that I can resize this histogram, I can move it, I can do a bunch of things with it. But if I come in and I press the delete button, I'm going to get a message from FCS Express, and it says the operation is not allowed. You don't have permission to remove histograms. So how is that being set? Well, this is being secured through our security system. And when you have the security add-on enabled, what you'll be able to do is come into the security system and create things like layout status definitions or security group definitions. Now, what this means is a layout status definition means that if I come in here, I can say that for this particular layout, this analysis, I am not allowed to remove histograms. I'm not allowed to remove what we call a gate view. And you can see how fine-grained these sorts of permissions get, right? It really covers every sort of action that you can take in the software. So in a compliant environment, if you set up this sort of template and you never want users to delete plots, you never want them to remove something, add something to this particular analysis, you can set that on an analysis specific level. Now, the other level of security is that you can do this through a user-based system, right? Through what we call security group definitions. And security group definitions are very much the same as those layout-specific definitions, where we can come in and say, for somebody who's part of this technician user group, they are not allowed to delete a page. They are not allowed to create a new spreadsheet, right? We can add or remove or give whatever permissions that we need for that particular person. So right now you can kind of see down here at the bottom, it says I'm logged in as an admin. But what I'm going to do is actually get myself logged out. We won't save any of the changes here that I've made. But FCS Express is going to launch up again. It's on my other screen now. And I'm going to pull this over and we're going to log in as a technician. And I'm going to open up another kind of version of this layout to give you a kind of flavor of what this can look like. But this is, again, that same layout. But what we've done is we've saved this as a template. And this is very much how users work with FCS Express in the lab. They create a template for analysis. They lock down what can be done, what cannot be done. And when they're ready to analyze data, they simply come over to wherever their data files are stored, whether it be TMO files or FCS files from the Attune. They can drag and drop that into the data list in FCS Express, and now this template is populated. So that will allow me now to kind of move through and analyze, set my gates, whatever it is I need to do. But if you remember, when we looked at the technician permissions, they were able to do everything except for delete a page, right? So if I come in here and add a page and I try and delete it, it's going to say that this operation is not allowed for the current users. You don't have permission to delete that page, right? So the security group permissions work in that way. And generally the follow-on question we get for that is, do you have a limit of what security groups you can set up? Which the answer is no. You can set up unlimited security groups. You can set up, however many users that you've defined for your licensing that you've purchased through FCS Express. And you can use them in any sort of way that you want. Now, another part of compliance is having the ability to maintain electronic signatures. And what you'll kind of see in this FCS Express layout here at the bottom is that we have what we call a signature table, where it says a technician has signed this layout. They signed this on March 17th at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Time, but the person who's doing QC on this has never signed the layout. Now, the electronic signatures in FCS Express are managed here in the File tab and in this info section. And what they allow you to do is set up any sort of signatures and signature lists that you want. So in this case, we have a technician signature, which only a technician can sign for. We have a QC signature, which a technician and an administrator can sign for. And there's also additional options in here, one of which we put in somewhat recently in the last year or two to allow authorized users to sign based off of tokens. And really what this does is it allows you to force signature orders. So if you want the technician to always sign before a QC analyst looks at this, we can design these signatures so that you must have a signature order in place to do that. And what signing actually looks like is if we come in here and we say, let's sign this layout, and I'm going to sign for the QC person. We have to come in, we have to put in our username and password, and you can see that we've now electronically signed this document. We have the time stamped here, and when we save this layout, this is now permanently saved with this layout in a secure format, which also goes into our audit trails in FCS Express. Right. So we've talked about so far, working with security users, working with security groups, working with electronic signatures, but we haven't touched on logging and audit trails, which are also controlled in FCS Express here through the Info tab. And if we look at something like View Layout History, This is the full history of this layout from start to finish. So we can see that we started creating this on March 17th. It's gone through a number of different iterations. We're capturing changes like aligning plots, zooming things, moving, resizing. Really, every single action that you perform in the software will be logged and it will become part of this audit trail. And then when we've switched from the administrator role, over to this technician named Sean Burke, we can see that the technician has done a number of things, and in the end, it was signed, it's dated, it's stamped. This is saved for posterity, and whenever this analysis is referred to in the past, the audit trail can be easily picked up, looked at, printed for all of your quality assurance procedures. Now, the other part of working in FCS Express in a secure environment is having other sorts of controls, right? So having security configurations. And again, this may be duplicative. I know we've seen these kind of controls coming from the Attune software already. Now we're looking at it in FCS Express. But the important thing is that all of this is here, right? And it's here from acquisition to final result. So looking at things like password policies, password requirements, system level audit trails. And again, the way that these system level audit trails work is, if I try to change something about any of my configurations, FCS Express will prompt me and say, what is the reason for change? And I can type in some sort of reason for change. That gets logged. And that goes over here in our reports. If we look over here in our system reports, we can look at system level audits. And this will give us all of the information associated with anything that we would consider system level, changing things about users, changing things about security, passwords and permissions, but also some important things as well, right? Security, all system level audit trails will also capture if a user opened up a layout and they printed the layout, but they did not save the analysis, right? And that's kind of important because you don't want a hard copy of something floating around that you don't have a digital copy for, and you want to be able to reconcile those changes. And system level audit trails will help you capture that information. Now, that kind of summarizes, I think, at a high level what we do with our security and logging and audit trails in FCS Express. Of course, there's some additional functionality we'd be happy to take questions on and answer. But the other part of this is efficiency, right? And getting information out and getting it out to where you need and passing that in some sort of way where you don't have to do copy and paste. You don't have to have errors and transcriptional errors pop in from, using the multiple software tools as part of your analysis workflow, right? Having a direct export is really, really key. And we come to that here in FCS Express by using what we call batch processing, right? Now, what batch processing is going to do, and what I'm going to do is set up here a little bit by moving some of my FMO controls out of the way here from our analysis template. But batch processing will say, whatever sample you happen to be starting at in the data list, I'm going to start at sample 6 here for convenience, we can define a number of actions, like export that to PowerPoint, export results to Excel, save the layout, right? Save any of the changes that you've made with that, the audit trails, gating changes, things like that. So again, what the workflow would for you as a user might be is you open up a blank template, you drag and drop your TMO files into FCS Express, everything is pre-populated, you adjust the gates as needed, and then the technician would come in here and click run. And what is now happening is FCS Express is providing direct exports. It's doing one of 3 things. It's exporting to Excel, it's exporting to PowerPoint, it's saving the layout with the audit trails to it, and it's doing that across however many samples I've defined to do it for that day. And at the end, if you'd like, FCS Express will auto launch, and we can see that we're capturing metadata, we're capturing analysis dates, we're capturing information without having to open up Excel, copy and paste, move things into here. We have a PowerPoint report being created with what we call high resolution, or what are called high resolution vector graphics. So if I want to bring this plot to the front, I can, see if this is the information I need that I want to report and look at. I have it quickly available. In this case, we're exporting all the files to one PowerPoint, but more likely than not, you'll be exporting to individual PDF files or individual PowerPoint files. But also importantly, what we've done at the end of this analysis is we've saved all of the individual data files out to layout files in FCS Express. So that means if I need to come back and see what was done with this particular data file at this date, see if it's signed, if I need to go through and look at the audit trails for this particular analysis in this particular case or patient or whatever it might be, I can go through and I can follow up in the audit trail specifically for this data file for what happened that day. So with that, I think that brings me to the end of talking about at a very kind of high level some of the compliance functionality that we have in FCS Express and how that fits into the overall workflow of moving from your TMO files into FCS Express. And what you can really see is that FCS Express is designed to help you get results quickly and efficiently, but also do that in some sort of compliant manner. When you have security and logging are implemented, you're ready for compliance to set that up as per your QC departments. We have streamlined analysis to reporting. You can reuse these templates. The integrated spreadsheets and charting tools are very helpful. And again, we're reducing the number of softwares that you're using. We're reducing the number of copy and pastes to other reporting and presentation tools, which is really going to help streamline that compliance workflow for you. Also keep in mind, ease of use, right? If you haven't used this before, Microsoft Office-like interface, we have online tutorials and training resources, but also importantly, we have a very dedicated and knowledgeable support team, which generally has a less than 24-hour response time, usually much, much faster. And we really do encourage you to download a free demo of FCS Express, reach out to our support at novosoftware.com email address if you have any questions, or even pick up the phone and give us a call. When you call us, you'll get a message, and our most knowledgeable or local person in your area will get back to you with any questions that you might have. So with that, we're going to take a few questions here in a moment, but I wanted to say thank you for attending the webinar today. And if you have any questions after the webinar, you're viewing a recording of this webinar, make sure to contact support at novosoftware.com with any questions. You can contact your local Thermo Fisher representative with any questions that you have, or visit the Thermo Fisher website to get more information. And again, we really appreciate everybody coming out for the webinar. And we'll take a pause and come back for a few questions. All right, so I know as we were going through the webinar, we had a number of questions that had popped up today. And I know one of those that was in regards to the Thermo insurance. And Bethan, if I have you on the line, maybe I could take you off of mute here for a minute.
Sure.
One of the questions came up. It says, do you offer custom roles and security users? I can address the FCS Express side because we just saw it in FCS Express. You can see that we can set up custom security groups and user roles. Could you comment on that from the Thermo side as well, Bethan?
Absolutely. You can set up custom roles. One of the things you can do in the console is you can set up custom roles for virtually anything you want. For example, you can completely stop a user being able to actually do any changes to the instrument during acquisition, and almost go through it as essentially. I'm just looking at one of the roles we have here. If you're a basic user, what you can do is you're not able to change any acquisition control, any compensation, or even move around your workspace or plots. And one thing I would like to point out is that it is only an hour, so it's very difficult when you have two different software packages to highlight just everything that we do. In the Attune, we do offer a lot of analysis options as well, not the expanded analysis options that FCS Express does, but we do have a number of gating, statistics options, heat map options, and so on and so forth that you can have different user roles applied to. So we do provide 5 different user roles, and then we also allow those bespoke roles for people to decide. I hope that answered the question.
Perfect.
But please do reach out if there are any more questions. More than happy to clarify anything.
Great. And I saw another kind of interesting question here come through about FCS Express, and it says, how does FCS Express handle when changes are made to analysis after approval of the data? So I think in that case, you go back and you review something after the analysis has been reported. Somebody figures out that, something needs to be changed or a mistake was made or something needs to be added. From the FCS Express side, when you're working in FCS Express, we have the electronic signatures, and what we can do is we can force locking of the analysis after the analysis is signed. So you have an option where you can lock down everything. So once analysis is completed, you can't change it. But we also have the ability to unsign a layout, and essentially the signing options that you have are signing and unsigning, and they get tracked in the audit trails through all of the analysis. So if there is a particular need where an analysis needs to be unsigned and then updated and then re-signed, we allow you the ability to meet that criteria if it's something that you need. Another question that came up in regards to FCS Express, and I think this question is probably good for the Attune software as well. Are there documents or manuals available to help setting up the compliant features? Because there seems to be many details to work with. Yes, FCS Express, we have a full manual that outlines all of the security groups, all of the security permissions, how to set up security groups, how to set up security users, how to do electronic signatures. So all of that information is included in our standard documentation that comes with the software. And we're also happy to help out users at any time if you have any questions about that. And maybe I could throw that question over to you, Bethan. Is there any sort of documentation that folks can utilize from the Attune side of things?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm aware there's so many different things it's hard to cover in one hour between the two software packages. Like I said, we do have a very comprehensive manual on this pertaining to all of the different security aspects, every single thing that you can audit, all the way from generating your data through to analyzing your data, and all of your various e-signature options as well. It is a very lengthy document, but I will also say that, like Sean mentioned with FCS Express, we have field representatives and technical support who are more than happy to help guide you through that process and ensure that you are compliant on the technical aspect of everything. But yes, I mean, it's a meaty topic. I think it's often somewhat intimidating because it is so acronym heavy, 21 CFR Part 11, but we're really here to help make sure that you can become, to switch over to electronic signatures and be compliant in that way. So please do reach out again if you have any further questions. Our field teams are more than happy to help.
Excellent. I see another question here about unsigning or unlocking data in FCS Express. It says, does it ask for reasons for change? In FCS Express, there is a note section in the electronic signatures that can be filled out. We also have the ability to add custom text boxes, custom information to the report. So, if you do unsign a layout, we could trigger something that happens in the software to provide some sort of documentation on why that was done. So there are a lot of ways that we can address that question. Another question that came up about FCS Express was, does FCS Express offer IQ/OQ validation packages for the software once you purchase it and implement it? The answer is yes, we do offer IQ/OQ binders and documentation for FCS Express. You can contact us at support@novosoftware.com if you want to get information about that. Another question I'm seeing come through here, it says, what does an Attune PDF report look like? Bethan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, more than happy to. So maybe if I can take the screen for a minute, I'd be happy to show you one or two things there. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we see the Attune software coming through here.
So one of the things I did point out in the ribbon here, where we have all of our analysis options here and instrument controls, is that we do have this sign record option here. So this is an unsigned version, and you can go through and sign it. Maybe I will just do that to show everyone. My goodness, pressure. And then you have to select a meaning. It's already telling me I have to sign it. There's a reason I have to sign it. And while we let that load up, the experiment is signed. So it then tells me that editing the experiment will obsolete the previous electronic signature. And you can see here an e-signature report. So what we have here is everything from the acquisition. You can see there's a heat map, and then there's a report of everything that was done, the sample list. And these are the same samples that Sean showed you during his demo. And then you can see every aspect of the compensation workspaces that we have. So this is very much more on the data analysis side of things. And this has been signed that this is good, and this can be kept as a record. You even can see the run protocols here. So you can see all of the stop events, the flow rate, well acquisition volume, and everything. Everything is covered in here. And then another one of these we were talking about was, I'll just load that one up for 1 minute. While I do that, please, if there are any further questions, I think we have time maybe for one more.
Yep, and I see one more coming in here about does Attune software provide a trial version, and can you use Attune software for data analysis purposes only, just like FCS Express?
I am not able to answer on the trial version, but I can reach out to our teams and ask about that. However, yes, you can do analysis in this. It is mainly, though, tailored to Attune generated software. Sean, if I could take the screen again.
Sure thing. Let me pop that over to you.
So here we have our audit and signing history that comes from the SAE module. And you can see every single thing that I did during analysis and during acquisition has been audited with different values here. So you can see that there was an instrument setting change with voltage and so on and so forth. And the workspace plots, workspace gates, each one of them have their own unique record name, which means when something's changed, those objects themselves are actually tracked, so you can see where the changes have happened. And that also means, because they have unique identifiers, that you can actually track any gaps in audit history if things change. But you can see here what we have. This is just the actual audit and signing history that the administrator sees, and you can see every single thing that the user did as they went through and did data acquisition and analysis. So, so as you can see, this is very thorough and comprehensive, and a very nice way of really capturing what's going on the instrument in lieu of paper records.
Excellent, and I see folks seem to be happy with that, which is really great. And great. So I don't see any additional questions coming through at this point, and if additional questions do come up, make sure to contact either of our teams. And I'd just like to say a big thanks to everybody who came out for the webinar today, and all those folks at Thermo, Rebecca, Ashley, Bethan, who made the webinar happen today, for my colleague Holly, who's online taking questions on behalf of the FCS Express team. Thanks everybody who made this come together over the last little while, and thanks especially to all of our customers and prospective customers for joining us today. With that, we'll say bye-bye, and thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.